Alright, welcome back to the Golden League 2 Round 3. We've got LucifroN here, the yellow trunks, top side of the map. Here today on Baltic. He's up against B in the orange trunks on the Mongols on the lower side of the map. So we're through to the final game between these guys in their best of 3, with LucifroN taking the opener and B taking the second game. So check them out. Pretty awesome games to watch. I've covered them already. So here on Baltic, also known as Mediterranean in Age of Empires 2 and Age of Mythology, and also known as Coastal in Age of Empires Online. Man, it'd be nice to get some map name standardization, wouldn't it? Anyway, that aside, got two fearsome competitors. One of the best players from Spain, up against probably the best player from Russia. LucifroN, actually with a wealth of StarCraft 2 experience, while B, I believe he actually was quite high level in Age of Empires 2 before AoE 4 came out. So both our players making impacts in other RTS games prior to their AoE 4 expedition. So we've got an Abbasid player. Abbasid being a civ that has much less in the way of different landmarks to the other civs, but this House of Wisdom, they basically do all their aging up through that, have a pretty cool extended tech tree through it, while Mongols, one of the civs that really can't play around, you know, defend, wall off and macro up sort of styles, although they've got, you know, great caravans. Most of their buildings, other than like towers and the Ovu and the dock, can pretty much just be picked up and shifted elsewhere. And a very nice early aggression civ. But they're a civ with an oftentimes fairly inflexible age 2, where you've got to try and work towards a pretty quick age 3 oftentimes. But again, they've got a very strong caravan eco, have an improved scout. In fact, the Khan is basically like a hero. Doesn't really do any extra, only does a little bit of extra damage, but has some cool actives and whatnot to use. Abbasid player. They've also got access through their House of Wisdom to what's called their Golden Age pathway, which gives them bonuses such as research speed, gather speed, train time, so some pretty hefty boosts through that, and they can get that through basically snaking all their buildings, having them all sort of within about this distance to one another. But anyway, that might be enough of the, I guess, the basics behind the civ for anyone that might be new watching. Here we go, the House of Wisdom actually being used to join up the dock. Now, this could potentially be a risk, but bearing in mind, these things get increased health as you age up and take different wings on them. So they've effectively got the same health pool as what any other civ would have out of all their other landmarks. Plus or minus a little bit, I think. I can't quite remember off the top of my head what the maths is. But, yeah, basically the House of Wisdom, if this were any other landmark, it could potentially be dangerous having that close to the shore, but at the same time, it's really useful for the Abbasid player, because now he's only got a couple more structures before he gets a nice big boost to his villager gather rate. I don't believe it impacts the fishing boats. It's also got access to all these techs, so depending on which wing he goes, and he's going trade wing, so this will actually let him use the House of Wisdom as a market, and it gives him 3 traders. So LucifroN can have a nice big boom to his eco. He's already actually up to 8 fishing ships. B, on the other hand, is only on 5, but is investing in a second dock already. So that trade wing's finishing up. There's no Age 2 landmark yet for our Mongolian player, who's instead going for some cavalry. So the horseman able to get a villager already. And there's not really much in the way of defenders yet for the Abbasid player. So LucifroN's really only able to afford the barracks now, having gone for extra fishing boats and gone for the Age 2 landmark a little bit earlier than his opponent. So B able to get the first basically land initiative here because he's gone for that early stables and now he can really pressure this gold mine. He's picked off a couple of villagers. The barracks is finished up, so the spears, they can actually be upgraded to their age 2 equivalent, which would be really strong against these horsemen, which have only got their age 1 stats, because Mongols, having access to them an age earlier than any other civ, you know, there is a downside to it. You've actually got to get horseman upgrade once you get age 2, which B's going for now. And he can't really stick around in engagements here. He's mostly just going to be relying on the card, getting a little bit of tiny damage off on the spears, maybe making it awkward to try and place a second dock for LucifroN like he did there. B's going to have to start adding some warships very soon because LucifroN, his age up's already kicked in. He'll probably be looking to push his opponent off the water here, going for 2 docks, just like B has gone to. B's now up to 11 fishing boats. LucifroN on 11. I think he must have been held up a little bit there. Actually, no, I take that back. It's probably just because B's finished that second dock a little bit earlier. So B really slightly earlier second dock, and with his early stables there, able to really start harassing LucifroN. Being another villager too. So LucifroN, he's got that Golden Age, the first tier bonus. So it's nice gather rate. That's probably the biggest thing really. Getting tier 3 bonuses, obviously it's so huge, but you know, 15% gather rate, that's equivalent to getting all 3 of your age 2 gathering technologies for free, as you know, as soon as you get 10 buildings connected. So very nice for LucifroN's macro, but he's already struggling a little bit in terms of, I think, the opening builds here. But he's able to start pressuring B, but a Dow is the light warship, whereas the war junk, obviously the heavy warship, B's already able to invest in that as soon as he ages up. Even though his age up's later, he can start pumping out war junks because he can afford them, whereas now we're going to have Bagler, which is the equivalent to a war junk. This Warloff's going to be useful for LucifroN, protecting that gold mine. Eventually he's probably going to have to shift these wood gatherers though, otherwise the wall's going to start to be less and less useful. B hasn't opted to go for a range just yet. So B is just massing up some war junks. LucifroN now is his first Bagler out. Producing some more, but he actually population capped momentarily here. So B going to push with 3 war junks up against 2 Bagler and a Dow. So LucifroN, if he's fighting under his healing, this is probably a fair trade. But if he leaves that, he's, you know, he's behind in terms of the actual warship value. Well, over here, B's mostly just trying to keep kiting these spearmen. He's not going to get any great damage out of the Khan, but at the same time, as long as he doesn't lose them. But it looks like he actually will lose the Khan, so that's very sloppy by B there, because he's now actually given up all those starting sheep. But he must have been paying attention to this fight, I'd say, because he's managed to snipe a Bagler there, and he's up to 5 war junks, although that explosive Dow is going to be a pain. It's a lot of sheep that B could have back at home, but I suppose it... Ooh, he's pretty tight on food, actually. But I suppose he's fishing perfectly fine at the moment. Seems to be holding onto a lead on the water here, because we've now just got the 4 Bagler, the 1 explosive Dow, and the fishing ships are having to do shore fishing here just to stay safe. So B actually focusing down the explosive junk in the middle of, the explosive Dow in the middle of all the Bagler there. Now we've got some archers here for B, while we haven't yet got any production on the land other than spears for LucifroN. In fact, think he's really only just built the 5 and left it at that. These traders be giving him a little bit of value. It's not the longest of distances there, but every little bit helps for sure. So he's trying to take some good engagements in the water here. LucifroN having to really avoid leaving the dock here, but I think B's got enough that he just constantly harasses here. As long as he doesn't run into an explosive Dow head on, he should be okay. Ooh, and that explosive junk. Not quite getting all those fishing ships, but it gets them all very low. There's an explosive junk there for B as well, so it might be able to connect with one of these warships here. I believe it's a little bit faster. It does go off without really getting anything too high value there. More explosive dows here. LucifroN, who's expanded up to 4 docks at this point. Another reason why he's a little behind on the land army, having invested a bit more on the water there. But now B's actually pushing into him, and looks like this has worked out really well for B, because he's actually sort of caught LucifroN out here, potentially over-investing in the water. There's nothing really to hold off the archers, and then with them taking out the spears now, all the villagers are under threat, and they've got to try and fight the horsemen by themselves. GG. Looks like B's going through to the next round.